So today I'm going to be trying out the microphone, the new Rode Go 2. I'm going to keep the audio separate because I'm actually missing a cable. You need one of those, like the original iPhone cable, or I think it's called like SC16 or 15 from the actual Rode company. It seems that there's different types of Type C cables. Some of them have the ability to transmit audio. Obviously, the more expensive ones than the most common cheap ones that you get around the place. Today, I'm taking a different route. It is up into Los Pinos, or the Pines, going up to a place I've never been before. So hopefully, I don't get lost. Thanks to everyone who's been watching the videos so far and giving me feedback and interacting with me, and I've been spamming the link to a lot of people. Been trying to utilize Instagram and Snapchat and adding and following as many people as possible, and some people have actually gotten back to me and interacted, which is quite nice. I'm trying to take the guerrilla marketing approach at this point, where every interaction, every like, follow, subscribe at this stage counts. Especially, I don't think YouTube does much for you in terms of putting you into anyone's algorithm until you hit like over 1,000 subscribers. One thing that Dylan pointed out to me was the importance of viewer retention, making things interesting, making the edits quicker. Viewer retention is everything. Angela told me that I need to be looking at the camera, interacting, doing the whole YouTuber thing. Like, comment and subscribe. I don't know, I was hoping that I could avoid it, but I think there's a reason for these things now. I wanted to discuss Spotify playlists and playlisters today. Spent some time today doing something for a client where basically you either use the Submit Hub or DistroKid's playlister. And basically how the playlister works is you sync your Spotify with it, search the genre or kind of the type of music that you want to, the type of playlist that you want to get in on. It gives you, scans the web, scrapes the web, gives you a big list of them. Then you can either reach out through their email directly or through their Instagram. A lot of these playlisters allow you to reach out, and then they'll send back like a request for this much money to add you to the playlist. And maybe some of them are really good, but I think a lot of them are actually just business oriented and botted playlists, don't really give a shit about your music. But some of them, I'm hoping, some of them are genuine, and I'm hoping that by establishing connections, Jesus, there's so many flies in this forest the past couple of days. I think since the heat picked up, it's definitely gotten a lot worse. So I think they're quite valuable services, but I think also a lot of them are rip-offs. But there's definitely a lot to be said for, if you're trying to market your music, to be setting up your own playlists, inviting other artists of similar genres in, rather than using it as something that you just apply to. I believe that the whole system can be leveraged, that you create your own playlist, sign up to these services, and try and add as much music in the same window as possible. The bigger platform you have, and obviously you have control over the hierarchy of your playlist. So you'll essentially funnel loads of views to your own tracks by leveraging other artists that are trying to get views on their own. I'm excited to see how the quality of this mic will be. It's going to be an extra bit of work trying to sync up the audio, and I'm not sure. I think there's some like noise suppression with these. I think that what you'll hear through the iPhone versus what you'll hear through the microphone here will be vastly different. And I don't know, is it something that it's like a sacrifice? The ambience of the forest is beautiful, but the wind sounds like shit. And I was thinking like there should just be something that goes over the actual mic on the phone that would help for this. I just wanted to give a little shout out to my friend Ciarán. He's been really supportive on the episodes, and it's been really nice to catch up with him. He's given great feedback and he's trying to help me come up with a name. As I mentioned in the last episode or the previous one, it's very difficult to decide on a name for some of the music I want to release, the kind of more emotional, breakbeaty stuff. So I mentioned that video that halfway was the idea I was going to use, but he said he's going to try and come up with something, so big up, Ciarán. Nice one, man. So yeah, if you like any of the music, feel free to reach out and I'll send you the track to download so you can have a listen to it. I'm going to go back up to where I filmed the drone footage from day 4. I thought it was really, really beautiful. The sunset is absolutely astounding up there. Completely blew my mind. Currently just walking through a trail in the woods. I think it'd be absolutely brilliant for some mountain biking. Although getting up here on the bike, be fairly fucked from it. I will make a video doing some mountain biking someday. Probably try and get a GoPro or something and just use it for B-roll. I think it could be pretty fun. I actually don't think I'm going to get used to these walks. I haven't felt like this in years. Something about the sun and trees, being alone with your thoughts. There's nothing like it. I recommend to anyone watching who mightn't be in the best place at the moment. The next day there's a nice bit of weather. Let's go to the forest by yourself and sit down. Be surprised how quick you'd start feeling better. I don't know, has it got to do with the vitamin D, or the microbiome of the forest, or just getting into our natural habitat? It's probably a mixture of all three, to be honest. But it's something that I was craving this. I didn't know what I was craving, but I think it was this. On the gimbal, that I got the Hohem V6 or M6. There's an app. I think it just comes with any Hohem gimbal you get. And it has like, kind of like content creation ideas or guidelines, filming ideas or guidelines. Birds are going mental. And one of the favorite shots that I've learned so far is when you just look up at the sky in the trees and spin around. The other one's kind of getting low to the ground and trying to focus in on the floor and making the background blurry, and then as you come up you try to make the background come into focus. Kind of struggling with it a bit. There's a thing that you learn, it's called a duck walk when you're using a gimbal or any camera, I think, where you just try to walk without bouncing around. Now the gimbal and the iPhone do actually have auto stabilization and this kind of thing, but it just makes all the better when you really take your time and do things slowly. Sudden camera movements just don't look good. They just don't work in film or anything. This is something I'm learning as I'm going along. Something someone told me a long time ago back in the days of me spamming SoundCloud links, private SoundCloud links to strangers. I got some good advice from a lovely person. They told me that if it's not mastered, finished and available online, then it doesn't exist. And there's something about if you're, living the life of a musician and performing and always talking about that next release, or this year it's going to be the year, or that the tracks you've been working on that never seem to get released, just sitting on a hard drive, collecting dust. And then, you go back months or years later and you listen to them and you're like, oh, I'm better now, or, oh, I need to change this, or thinking of Brian here now, I need to just record that violinist to get it to where I want to be. And things just never seem to materialize for a lot of people. And I think I'm certainly guilty of that in certain ways. When I was concentrating on just making drum and bass for a long time, my kind of quality control were based off of maybe like 2 or 3 close friends and the labels I was sending my demos to. Because I wasn't confident in my own ability. I was always kind of leaving the seal of approval to strangers, hoping that they would tell me if it's ready to release or not. And I think this is definitely a good method, but I think we all get to a certain stage where it's necessary to self-release music. Self-releasing music can have, I'd say, negative impacts on the reach, but maybe positive impacts on your creative expression over long periods of time. Something I wanted to discuss today in relation to mental health is a quote I seen on Facebook that one of the harshest realities that we'll ever kind of admit to ourselves is that part of us actually wants to stay in our old habits, within our addictions, within our old patterns. And that really resonated with me as I've spent like many years away from different substances, but now I have problems with sugar, cravings for snacks. I know it's kind of funny, but it really affects my energy levels. I'll eat loads of cake and fucking feel like shit the next day, or possibly even for a couple of days afterwards, So I find myself really trying to reflect on that quote today of why does part of me want to stay there? Because it gives me temporary relief from some stresses in my mind, or I just get a little hit out of it. Because when I eat like loads of chocolate or something, it actually kind of makes me kind of sleepy, and I think it's like there's like a hit off it, I don't know, I'm sure I'm not alone in that. Emotional eating and sugar is one fucking hell of a drug. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. Something weird, like why is it easy to do things that are bad for us, and a lot of the time it can be really hard to do things that are good for us. It's a question that I think we all need to ask ourselves Is it some weird form of self-harm? Do we feel like we don't deserve certain things, that we just like think life is bad, so we should just kind of consume what we can to just feel different, rather than doing the hard thing now so that we feel better later? Instead, we do the easy thing now and then feel bad later. Today, I will be spending some time using some VSTs from a company called Beat Surfing, and they make a really interesting kind of, I don't think it's AI, but it's some kind of model that where they take loads of audio samples and creates like generative metallic sounds. Some really crazy sounds come out of this thing. And they also made a new one recently, which they gave me a discount on, so shout out to them, called Random Metal. And it just creates loads of different perk sounds. They're all particularly dark, kind of like, I don't know, kind of obnoxious, grindy kind of sounds, which can be really cool depending on the type of music you're trying to make. And for the sample pack that I'm working on, the 1000 effects, it's something that I think will come in quite handy. I intend on layering multiple different VSTs on top of it, different effects, massive clouds of reverb, just recording out and just trying to get as freaky as I can with different sound design. I know that there's loads of Max for Live devices out there, and for anyone who doesn't know, it's Max for Live. It's basically like you can essentially make your own tools within the kind of Ableton script or Ableton software, and it's really, really cool. I can't even begin to understand it, to be honest. I just know that that's probably what I believe makes Ableton stand apart from a lot of other tools, is specifically that a lot of people don't like the interface, that it's just like really bland and kind of boring, but Paul always says it's you need tiny fingers to use it. It's all these like little buttons that are kind of just like 3 tiny little dots that if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. And I kind of get it, you know. It kind of might make things that are simple kind of confusing, but I think my opinion of it is that I've bounced in between Fruity Loops and Ableton, and I need to learn more about Logic and Cubase before I make and Bitwig before I make my own opinion, make up my mind. But so far, Ableton for sound design specifically, for generative stuff, for live performance, it blows my mind. I spent 3 years using Ableton at the start, 2 years using Fruity Loops, and now back to Ableton for the remainder, which I think I've been making music for about 11 years. For anyone who's gotten this far, out of the people that I have just been spamming the link to randomly, thanks for taking the time. Please let me know what you think. I think you got to do whatever you got to do at the beginning of a YouTube account or a podcast or whatever it's just like guerrilla marketing, essentially. It's got to reach out to as many people as possible. Every interaction you have, every like, every subscribe counts at this stage. I think I mentioned this already earlier in the video, but please like and subscribe and comment. Tell me to fuck off, whatever you want. Something that I'd like to ask you all is, do you think it's better that I do a video as often as possible? Or if I should try and spend like a week recording in different places and discussing my thoughts, and maybe do like, you know, touch in with more, I suppose, interesting content, more in depth, lots more B-roll, lots more places. Probably make for a more interesting watch, right? Let me know what you think. The feedback I've gotten so far has been mixed between they like the fact that I'm trying to do this every day, trying to get a video out every day, and other people think that I should try and really focus on learning about viewer retention, how to make stuff, like have a hook at the beginning, and a lot of it just, I don't know, I feel like the kind of YouTuber handbook, it just comes across kind of painful. Like a lot of the time I'll click onto a video, the title, thumbnail might seem interesting, just feel like it's clickbait instantly and like they're just trying to sell something. No, I am trying to fucking sell something. But that's the thing, like, you know, you open up a video and it's like, you know, hook at the beginning and really enthusiastic, and I don't know, can I do it? I'm not sure if you guys can hear it, but there's two big motherfucking tauros over there. Three big bulls. Nothing but me and a bit of barbed wire in the way. They are intimidating as fuck. Shit. Well, I gotta be careful. That's something that Angela warned me. There's lots of animals up here. I haven't veered too far from the paths I know so far, but I'm excited to start going off really into no man's land. It was recommended to me to possibly get like a hunter's knife or something in case I encounter an animal that leaves me no choice. Although I'm not sure how I'd deal with a massive animal with a fucking knife, but it's probably better than having nothing, I suppose. Last year I went and seen my GP in Cork. I was suffering really bad with fatigue and just looking for help from a doctor, hoping that they'd be able to tell me what's wrong with me. Of course they didn't, but he was trying to put my mind at ease. And one of the things he told me was, I think he was specifically trained in some form of CBT. I can't remember exactly, a commitment and something therapy. I might put some text up on the screen here to confirm exactly what it was. But he one of the kind of meditations that he recommended to me, form of mindfulness, I believe it is imagine a river and imagine there's loads of leaves floating down the river. It's not an aggressive river, you know, it brings you peace and calm. And each river that floats by is a thought. And at the time I was like, that sounds like, you know, sounds kind of difficult. It's always difficult to expect someone who's like deep in the midst of suffering to, just like, you know, concentrate on your breath. Or have you ever heard of mindfulness or something like this? It can be pretty frustrating, you know. But it sat with me. And a couple of months later I was in Spain and I was at a river to I'm walking to right now. And it became like a place of peace in my mind. Now when I was there, I was only there for a couple of minutes and I was, you know, I was like, wow, this is a really special place. And then any time afterwards when I was kind of struggling or going through something, not every time, sometimes, that place came back to my mind. And it was really, really helpful. So I encourage people to try and find that place. Now it doesn't need to be a river. Just a place where you found yourself finding peace. And try and go back there in your head from time to time. And it was interesting. After all that time, after that specific time, some really interesting people came into my life. And they began to teach me about how changing our thoughts can change the world that we live in, you know? How our perceptions can ultimately affect our lives. And by practicing, now obviously the words manifestation and this kind of stuff come across really loaded, and I think for a lot of people that aren't living lives that they particularly want, it's an annoying fucking word, you know. But I opened my mind to it, opened my heart to it. I started to learn more about, I think specifically Dr. Joe Dispenza and his work. So I really recommend anyone who's itching to change their lives to give this information a chance. One of the first things that was taught to me was a practice of 7 minutes, 4 minutes of gratitude, a minute and a half of in the next 5 years I will be, and then a minute and a half of I am. And so the idea is that you will, in the first 4 minutes, at the beginning when you practice this, it's going to feel really difficult. Because a lot of people that are struggling don't necessarily feel the emotion of gratitude, because I really believe gratitude is an emotion, it's not a thought. So what you try and do is you try and tell yourself, I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for. And at the beginning, you know, you say basic things. I'm grateful that I can walk, I'm grateful that I have family, I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to practice something like this. And you know, you could feel, it can feel really ridiculous. You mightn't feel grateful at all in the beginning. It might actually make you feel worse. But the more you try and make a habit out of it, and the more you practice it, eventually you'll actually have the experience of gratitude, and it will really affect you, you know. You'll really feel it emotionally. And you're essentially training the body to feel different. You're changing your programming. And then the second one, where I want to be in the next 5 years, in the next 5 years I will be. So yeah, the second one is in the next 5 years I will have. And I think it's important, you know, not to be too grandiose, but to set goals of things that you really would like, things that would really make you feel different. But try and make them achievable, you know. Try and make them so that it's not too much. And so the last minute and a half is I am. And you'll notice that the I ams become easier with time. It's much easier to begin actually feeling like I am. You know, because if you keep saying in the next 5 years I will be, you know, I'll be fitter than I've ever been, I'll be wealthier than I've ever been. But, you know, maybe they're a bit too far away in your head at the moment, but they become easier the part to say I am. It's like, wait, maybe you actually are fitter than you've ever been. Maybe you actually are wealthier than you've ever been. Maybe you actually are happier than you've ever been. And so that was kind of the beginning of my changing my programming and manifestation in my life. And then I moved into trying to imagine the place where I'd like to be, the life that I want to have. And the whole thing that I was told, or that I was taught, was that your body doesn't know the difference if you're there or not already. So by imagining the place where you want to be, and I really think it needs to be a physical destination, by imagining the place you want to be, and by feeling as though you're actually there, it's like the world actually conspires to change your life so that you can actually end up being there. And I know it might sound like fucking wacky shit, like it's really out there, but a lot of people claim that this has had a profound effect on their lives and it's actually changed things for them. And I'm standing in the place where I wanted to be now, and my life is completely different. So I think it works. I really think it works. Give it a go.